Hello friends. For the third year BSc, the paper fifth, that's plant physiology and ecology. In that, the fourth unit is the ecology. In that, you will have a concept of ecological factors. So usually the ecological factors is nothing but these are the some factors that will key role in the ecological development or the sequences. So just first going to the what is ecology or the definition of the ecology. So it is a branch of science that deals with the study of or the interactions of the organisms in the nature or in the environment. Simply, the ecology is nothing but the interactions of the living and the non-living organisms in the environment. Then you have a question, what is environment? So environment is nothing but what we are observing in our surroundings. That's generally we call it as a environment. Ecology is the branch of biology that deals with the study of interactions of the organisms. So usually the term ecology is derived from a Greek word called okios. Okios means home and the logos means study. That means the study of homes. Study of which homes? That's a nature. The study of nature or the interactions of the different organisms in the nature, we call it as a ecology. And ecology is one of the interdisciplinary branch of the science that is interrelation with the environmental biology, biogeography, forestry, agriculture, fishery, wildlife, paleontology. So like that is interdisciplinary branches of the environmental science or the science. So going to the factors. So what is the ecological factors? So usually the mainly the ecological factors is divided into a climatic factors and the topographic factors. So usually the factors means the substance or the role of the matters. Those are generally referred as ecological factors. So usually in the ecological factors, generally that's a climatic and the topographic factor. The what is climatic factor? The factor is related to the climate or the environment. So those are generally referred as a climatic factors. That may be a light, temperature, precipitation, humidity, or wind. All these refer as a climatic factors. So usually the climatic factors mainly consist of that's interaction. That may be climatic. If you take the light, it's come from the sun, or if you take the wind or the other factors, heat, temperature, or one or the other factor that are interrelated each one. So in the biological factors, so usually that is interrelated with the biotic and abiotic component of a ecosystem. So then what are the biotic components? So all living organisms in the environment is simply referred as biotic component, and all non-living organisms, that may be the light, temperature, water. So those are referred as the abiotic factor. So in the abiotic factor, you will have the climatic factor, that's a light, temperature, water, and humidity, so etc. And the topographic factor is simply referred as a edaphic factor that related to the structure of the soil, mineral and salt, and the soil profile, soil pH. So like that there will be a different matters. So first going to the climatic factors. The variety of the living things earth are determined by the different climatic factors. That may be the sunlight or the temperature or maybe the pressure. So like that. All these over whatever the factor, physical factor in the environment, we call it as a climatic factor. The photograph itself shows that how actually these climatic factors interrelated with each other. The first factor is the light. Light is the energy source for all living things in the environment or in the nature. So that means whatever the solar radiation, that's a radiation come from the sun, that acts as one of the very important source of the nature, because the all producers, they require the solar or the radiant energy for the production. That's why the light is one of the key factor in the ecology of the environment. So usually the light, it's the energy sources, and it will impact on the pigmentation of the plant, migration of the plant, and reproduction of the plant. So usually the light is essential for the photosynthesis. So that's why it's one of the key factor. So how it affect, the light will be affect. For example, if you take the aquatic plant, so usually the majority of the aquatic plant will be on the top surface of the water body, because they require light for the photosynthesis. Or if in a terrestrial ecosystem, the all forest plants require the light for the preparation of the food energies. So each one these factor is affected. So how actually, the if the sunlight, that the sunlight is less, then naturally the plant will be grow slow. So based on these light factor, there are different types of the plants are there. That's shady plant, and the plant which loves the light. So like that. So based on these physiology, this is one of the physiological factors of the environment also. So usually the light. So if some plant require the maximum light for the growth and development, so they are referred as a long day plant. If some of them are require the less light for the growth and development, so they are referred as a short day plant. And some of the organisms require the average condition, that's a day neutral plant. So like that, this light will key role in the distribution of the plant. If you take the different kinds of vegetation, that is entirely depend on the light, temperature, and the precipitation. So next, going to the another one fact, that's a temperature. So temperature is the thing, when the light is come, so with that the temperature, that's heat energy, will also come. That heat energy is decide the one of the important factor for the plant. Especially the temperature is high, then naturally the plant or the biota will varies. That's a poikilothermics and homeothermics, that is especially in case of animals. So like that, in plant also, so if you go to the tundra region, there will be a very few scanty herbaceous plant will be grow. But if you come to the tropical region, naturally the trees and thick dense forest will be there, because the light intensity and temperature is very low in case of the tundra or the polar regions. But from the polar region to the tropical region, that my temperature is also varies and light intensity also varies. So even the sometime the animals also like that. Next one is a precipitation, that's a rainfall. There are different times of the rainfall will be there. In the usually some of the in the form of drizzles, and some may be the in the droplets, snow droplets. So like that, there are different types of the precipitation will occurs in the nature. They will also key role in the distribution of the plant. Next one, soil pH. Usually the one of the very important factor, that some hydrogen ion concentration, that will key role especially in the soil, so help for the growth and distribution. And the RH, relative humidity, how much of percentage of relative humidity, that will estimate in the percentage, that will key role in the distribution of the plant in the environment. So the next one is water. That's usually the one important factor for the, based on that hydrophyte, mesophyte, xerophytes, plant will be adapted. So that's another factor. And mineral and nutrients, mineral and salt, whatever the common mineral and salt present in the soil, that comes under the actually the edaphic factor. So that will determine the plant growth and the development. So like that, the various climatic factors, that may be light, temperature, precipitation, humidity, wind, will be key role in the growth and development of the plant, that will directly or indirectly affect on the vegetation. Just we can look at the how actually the temperature will affect on. So if temperature is more, then naturally what happens, the plant will not get the proper water condition. So usually they adapted to the xerophytic condition. So usually temperature is very low. So generally what happens, that's a low temperature, that's cysoscopic plant will be occurs. So like that, the humidity will also key role, and the wind. So if the wind flow is very high, generally the plant will have the stunted growth, plant will be occurs. So especially if you look at the shola vegetation, so the deep valley have the thick evergreen forest, but if you go into the tip of this shola forest, generally some small grasses and small herb and shrubs will be occurs. Because of the wind flow, what happens, there is no or the proper growth of the plant will be take place. So usually stunted growth of the plant occurs in the high altitude regions. And even the precipitation. So if very low precipitation, generally that's a dry regions, that's a xerophytic plant will be occurs. And if it is a heavy rainfall, then naturally that will affect on the soil pH also, that's acidic or the basic pH will determined by these how much of water is available. So if the good water content is available in the soil, naturally the plant will be evergreen forest will occurs. And if the less water will be available, what has they adapted to some stomatal changes or the transpiration adaptation condition will occurs, especially in case of the xerophytic cactus plant will be occurs. So if the water is also a key role, just like if the water is plenty and naturally it will be grow in the water bodies, then that's they adapted to the hydrophytic condition. If the intermediate, that's a mesophytic condition, and extremely less water, that's a xerophytic. And physiologically water will be available, but physically it may be not available. So those type of water is generally the allophytic plant, that's a salinity condition will also determine the factors. So based on these factors, generally the vegetation will be changes. So if you take the dry region, what happens, generally the xeric plant will be grow. If you from the tundra region, so usually the complete herbaceous and small land dwellers plant will be grow. And if you coming to the temperate region, usually the coniferous plant will be commonly grow. If you come to the tropical region, the semi evergreen forest will be occurs. So like that, these all factors will key role in the distribution of the plant. So like that, so temperature, precipitation, humidity, wind will influence on the distribution of the vegetation. They are all the key ecological climatic factors. So this is a general account on the climatic factors. So next one is a edaphic factor, or it is also called as a topographic factor, that we can study in the next session. So this is how the actually the simple concept, the ecological factor, under that the climatic factors.